My story starts when I'm 17 years old. I'm driving to school, beautiful morning, the day before I'm going to start my first varsity baseball game. All of a sudden, a car runs a stop sign and smashes my car right in my hip, 1985 Honda Prelude, which, if you've ever seen one of those, they're very small cars. The car was pushed up onto the side of the yard of the school. Tires were buckled underneath it. My door was right in the middle of the car. But fortunately, I was able to crawl out the other side of the car and get out. Of course, the emergency personnel show up and the other person gets out of their car and everybody's saying, "Oh my goodness, are you okay? You got to get to the hospital." But I was just about to start my first varsity baseball game the next day. So if I miss school that day, I miss practice. If I miss practice, I can't start the next game. So fortunately, I was 17 years old and invincible. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to school. I'll be fine. And for all intents and purposes, I was. Didn't have any symptoms, had a little bit of a, hip bruise, that sort of thing. But I played my whole junior season. I played my whole senior season. I played well enough to be able to play then at the University of Northern Iowa. And it was in my second year at the University of Northern Iowa that I distinctly remember looking up from the floor of my kitchen going, this is not how it's supposed to be. I had developed this searing back pain that started right in my back, shot down around my leg and into my knee every time I twisted, which in baseball is anytime you swing, anytime you throw, or anytime you run. So I was completely shut down. Those are the only things you do in baseball, right? The thing that I loved to do most in life was taken away from me at that point. So I needed to do something. I went to the team trainers. I said, hey, what do I do about this? And they, because I had radiating pain, they said, it's not our deal. We got to send you to the medical doctor. They sent me to the medical doctor. And what do you think the medical doctor did? Once they took the x-rays, they found out there was no pathology, no fracture, no major dislocation, things like that. What did they do? I was an athlete in pain. They gave me, pain medication. And you know what? It completely took my pain away. Completely took my pain away. But what do you think it did to my ability to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball? Right, it completely took that away too. So it wasn't my solution. It wasn't my solution at all. Fortunately, my mom said, hey, Chris, how about you go to a chiropractor? I said, what's a chiropractor? I had no idea. I grew up in Waterloo. I probably drove by 20 of them on my way to school every day. I had no concept of the profession whatsoever, but I was desperate. I would do anything. So I went. And fortunately, the doctor that I went to did a very thorough workup, took his own set of x-rays, then showed me very specifically what he found in his examination, including findings on the x-ray that were not found anywhere in the medical workup that I got done. I started a care plan with him, and fortunately, 2 weeks later, I was back to full function. Not only was I out of pain, but I was back to full function and on my way to actual recovery. This was the first huge moment in my life where there was this light bulb that went off, and I said, whoa, there is a major difference between feeling well and functioning well. So that's where my professional standpoint came from. Once I decided to become a chiropractor then, my focus was not on helping people just get out of pain and symptoms. It was on helping them focus on how to become as healthy as possible and how to thrive. So for the last 13, 14 years now, I've been dedicating my personal study to figuring out that question. What is it that allows human beings to thrive? What is it that allows people to function to their highest ability? And over that course of time, I've come up with a very simple formula, and I call it the Thrive Formula. The Thrive Formula includes 4 variables, 4 blanks that we get to fill in today that lead toward thriving. When the Thrive Formula is applied in a person's life, it works every time. It moves a person towards thriving. But first, we need to talk about what health is in the first place. So we say at Bright Futures Chiropractic that health results from the interaction of life's physical, chemical, and emotional stresses. These are the 3 major areas of life that we have direct control of in our lifestyle. And that's where our health experience comes from. So the physical component are all the things that are involved with what you do with your body. They're how you exercise and your posture, how much you sit, how much you move, any injuries that you've had, those sorts of things. The biochemical dimension are the things you eat, the things you drink, and the things you get exposed to. And then there's the emotional component, the emotional dimension. And this is the largest dimension of them all because it ranges anywhere from how you're going to react to any particular situation you're in, to your social life, to your family life, to your spiritual well-being. All of that is encompassed in the emotional department. And as you notice there, all three of those dimensions are sitting on a foundation. And that foundation we will talk quite a bit more about here today as we go. In the Thrive formula, that foundation is the first component. That foundation is the nervous system. And the nervous system is the primary master system in your body that controls and regulates all of the functions in your body. Now, how does that work? Well, this is a spine, and we've got the head here and the spinal cord here. And how this works is we know that in order to have excellent health, we must have an optimally functioning spine and nervous system. The nervous system consists of the brain, the spinal cord, and all of the nerves that go out from there. Now, the way that this works is the body has a job, and its job is to gather information about what's going on inside and outside the body and send that information through the spinal nerves, up the spinal cord, and into the brain. And then the brain's job is to decide whether everything is going okay. And if it is, great, we're in balance. If it's not, though, the brain has to send information down through the spinal cord, out the spinal nerves, into any cell, tissue, or organ that needs to change. And it's that flow of communication from the body to the brain and the brain back to the body that allows us to function well. It allows us to heal well. And when it's functioning great, then we have the opportunity for excellent health. But we also know that if there's a restriction or a misalignment in these spinal bones called vertebrae, that creates an imbalance. It creates an endangering stress on the spinal cord, on the nerve roots, and on the whole nerve system. And that's a huge deal because the nervous system controls everything. Everything is controlled by that nervous system. And so if there's interference caused at the spinal level, it breaks down the body's ability to talk to the brain and the brain's ability to talk to the body, and we don't function optimally. We move away from health. Now, oftentimes that isn't symptomatic right away, as it was in my case. In my case, I had an accident when I was 17. It wasn't until I was 21 that the actual symptoms showed up from it. So oftentimes there's a long lag between when we have the issue and when we actually notice the symptoms. Most of healthcare, once we start doing something about our symptoms, most of healthcare is very happy to get just on the other side of the symptoms. And they say, okay, great. You don't have any symptoms anymore. It looks like we've accomplished our goal. Come back when you have symptoms again. Again, that wasn't enough for me. That wasn't enough for my experience that I had had. My goal is to help people not only get on this side of the symptoms, but to help them get all the way back to optimally functioning health. And that's why the nervous system is the first component of the Thrive formula. We have to have a healthy, functioning nervous system in order to expect excellent health. It gets easier from here, fortunately. We need to add stuff to this now. And what we need to add is everything the body needs. And when we think about what the body needs, we need to think about physical, chemical, and emotional components, right? We need to give the body everything it needs in all three dimensions of health so that we have the opportunity to be sufficient in everything that we need to function great. On the flip side of that, we need to make sure that the body doesn't have stuff it doesn't need. So we need to take away everything the body doesn't need. And these are what we would call toxicities. And again, think in three dimensions. Physical, chemical, emotional toxicities. What are those things that you're doing, participating in, getting exposed to that are leading you away from better health instead of towards it? That's what we're talking about there. And then there's only one more blank to fill in before we get to thriving. And this is the one that oftentimes we as Americans, we as people of Western culture, have the hardest time with, because it's time. Time is the only other thing standing between a person and excellent health when the rest of the blanks of the Thrive formula are being fully actualized. How much time? Don't know. That depends on each individual and the health experience that they've had and the stress accumulation that they've had, and that's one of the things that our initial evaluation at Bright Futures Chiropractic helps to bring out. It helps give us an idea of what kind of time is going to be necessary to get back towards thriving. So that's how we create healthy people. Really, there's a simplicity in thriving. There's a beautiful simplicity, and it's this. We live on this continuum between optimal health and really poor illness. And each of us are on the continuum somewhere. And it's the things that we do in our lifestyle, physically, chemically, and emotionally, that lead us either away from better health or they lead us towards it. And this is a great concept to take home and start using because, think about it, at the end of the day, you can ask yourself, hey, which direction did I move today? Physically, chemically, emotionally, what things did I do today that moved my needle one way or the other? And that's an important habit to get into because that's how we accumulate health. And it's how we accumulate illness. One of the things that became very clear to me in my studies was that we don't end up at illness because we want to. We end up there on accident. We end up there because we have unconsciously accumulated all this health baggage that marginally, little by little, has moved us away from better health until we're at the point where we go, oh my goodness, this isn't where I want to be. Now what do I do? Well, fortunately, that same principle works towards health too. We can consciously accumulate little by little positive health effects until we're thriving, robust, vibrant, healthy individuals. And that's what we get to do. So how do we do that? Well, I wanted to come up with a simple test that we could ask ourselves that allows us to consciously start making decisions that move us in the direction that we want to go. And at one point it popped into my head, a question did, and I said, well, that is a simple test. Let's just call it the simple test. And the simple test is this. Whatever it is that you're about to do, how you're going to move, how you're going to eat, how you're going to think or react to a situation, you can take a miniature step back and ask yourself, will this make me healthier? That's it. Will this make me healthier? Now, if you ask yourself that, given any set of choices, what % of the time do you think you'll know the answer? Right. Yeah, I agree. Almost 100% of the time, you'll know the answer to that. And when you start asking yourself that question systematically as a habit, you will start moving yourself towards better health. Now, don't please take this to mean that I'm some sort of an abolitionist and you can never do things that lead you away from better health and everything that you have to do moves you towards better health. That's not the point. The point is being conscious about it and aiming for an 80-20 or 90-10 balance, where 8 or 9 out of every 10 choices that you make move you in the direction of better health. That's the idea of the wellness lifestyle. When you do that, then those 10 or 20% of choices that you make that are leading you in the other direction, they don't matter. You will overcome them with all the other things. We need to understand that everything that we do in life is considered a stress. It's a stress because it's either moving us away from better health or it's moving us towards it. Stress is simply something that can produce change in us. And all of the stress that we encounter is filtered through our nervous systems. We live our lives through our nervous system. We filter all of that stress and process all of that stress through our nervous system. Because our bodies identify what's going on, sends the information to the brain tells the body whether it needs to adapt differently or not. That's the cycle that we work with. But when our negative stress becomes chronic or the amount is significant, it can overwhelm our ability to adapt to stress. And that, if you remember, is the one cause of poor health, when we lose our ability to adapt to the stresses in life. What that leads to then are unhealthy, covert, habituated neurologic patterns, which are intelligent responses of the body, but ultimately they lead us away from better health. And that's what we call subluxation. Subluxation, in the chiropractic context, is interference to the nervous system, impeding the body's ability to heal and regulate itself. Now, when we have these things, what do you think? Can you always know when you have them? Do you always feel when you have them? Are they symptomatic immediately? No, they're not. In fact, most of the time, they can't be felt. So if they can't be felt, they impede our body's ability to heal and regulate and move us away from better health. Who do you think should be checked for subluxation? Right, I completely agree. Everybody. At least anyone with a nervous system, I like to joke. Here's how we test that in our office. We want to know exactly what's going on. And in our office, we have 3 very powerful pieces of technology that combine to create a core score that gives you an overall number, a rating number for the health of your nervous system. We also utilize digital x-ray, my skills with my trained hands on figuring out how your spine is moving, how it's positioned, and then a health history to figure out that time factor of the Thrive formula. Once we've put all of that together, I have a very clear picture of a person's health and can make very detailed and specific recommendations on how to start moving a person towards better health. Fortunately, usually symptoms go away as a person's health gets better. That's just how it works. And I'm glad when a person's symptoms go away, but I'm also glad when the symptoms are there to tell a person that there's something going on. And it's a nice point when we transition away from them because it's one of the signals of a person getting healthier, but it's not the only signal of a person getting healthier. In our culture, we have lived with this healthcare paradigm of sickness and treatment. When we get sick, we treat ourselves for it. When we get hurt, we treat ourselves for it. But that term, healthcare, unfortunately is a misnomer. The term healthcare is most commonly used to describe sickness care. Wellness care is a whole different thing. It aims to improve health. And as a sidebar, that prevents disease. Improving health prevents disease. And this occurs regardless of symptoms. Whether a person is an Olympic triathlete or somebody who's very, very ill and infirmed, each of those individuals can benefit from chiropractic care because the model helps a person move towards better health, no matter where their starting point is. Now, my favorite question of the whole thing, can you think of another form of healthcare that focuses on prevention instead of reaction? Yeah, somebody else that you would say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, good to see you. How can you help me today? And they focus on prevention instead of reaction. Okay, this is why it's my favorite, because nobody answers it. Here's my 5-second clue. And here's my 10-second clue. Yeah, and now most people get it. The arrow there pointing at her teeth, people go, oh, it's the dentist. This is exactly right. Well, the dentists have done an amazing thing where before the 40s and 50s, the dentists had a system of dental care that was reactive. People came in when they had problems with their teeth. In a simplified version of what happened, in their culture, they said, hey, how about we create a system that allows people to utilize their teeth and have healthy teeth long into old age? And so they came up with a system where we as individuals get to do stuff about our dental health daily, multiple times a day as a matter of fact, and we get to check in with them periodically, whether we're having symptoms or not, so that they can help things continue to do as well and maybe even better than they were, and if there's any underlying issues going on, they can help identify them before they become a big problem. That is wellness care, and we've all experienced that as a culture. In fact, most of us, if we went to bed and forgot to brush our teeth, what do? We get up and brush our teeth. It's that important to us. The dentists have done such a good job of teaching us a wellness care routine that honestly, most of us, if we went to the dentist and we had a good checkup and they said, hey, Chris, glad your teeth are looking good, come back when you have a cavity, we would think they're nuts. We would think they're absolutely crazy, and we would say, Doc, that's not how I want to take care of my teeth. Sorry, I'm going to go find somebody else. That's what I'm hoping we get to with the rest of healthcare as soon as possible, because we would be able to have the same impact that we've had with dental health, which our dental health in the country is very good when it gets compared to the rest of the country. Our overall health, though, is terrible because we're still following reactive care instead of a wellness care model. So this is what I'm hoping for people understand the chiropractic profession to be. This profession that allows a person to thrive. In fact, most of us, if we're leaving work a little early to go get our adjustment or whatever, people might say, oh my goodness, what's wrong? You know, expecting a headache or a neck pain or a back problem or something like that. But I'm hoping for a culture to develop that says this: oh, no, nothing's wrong. Chiropractic is a form of healthcare that identifies and corrects damage to the nervous system or subluxation, and that helps me restore the body's ability to heal itself, and I can achieve optimum health. I'll see you on Monday, right? We have to remember the Thrive formula, because the Thrive formula is the core of what I think about on a day-to-day visit with a person, whether it's a very tiny baby or the great-grandfather of that baby. I'm working through the Thrive formula, which is, how's the nervous system doing? We have to have a healthy nervous system. Is the body getting everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't? And are we giving it enough time to be able to lead toward thriving? Those are the factors. And each time that it's done, it produces better health. So, ask yourself this question: who's responsible for your health? Good, I'm getting a lot of right answers. But let me ask you a couple of questions. Is it the government? Is the government responsible for your health? Can the government create policies that make you get healthier? No, they can't, right? Maybe it's your insurance company, right? Your insurance company is out there so you can be vibrantly healthy. Okay, right, it's silly. Those things, in fact, any external force is going to fail at attempting to make a person healthy unless the person takes their own responsibility, their own health in their own hands, and takes the responsibility to become healthier. So I am are my two favorite words when it comes to responsibility and self-responsibility. Whose responsibility is it? It's my responsibility. Were you designed to be healthy? I love to ask this question, because humans at the moment on the planet are the sickest species on the planet. But is that because we're just poorly designed? What do you think? Do you think you were designed to be healthy? I say absolutely. Every cell in your body is designed to be healthy. And if that's the case, when is the best time to work towards health? Right now. I agree. Right now. There's a great Japanese proverb that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Right now. Fits perfectly with health. When's the best time to start working towards health? Preconception. When's the next best time? Right now. And we all have that opportunity. Before we wrap up, I want you to help me save a wilting plant. So imagine with me here, we've got a plant. It's wilting. It's not dead by any means, but it's droopy a little bit, maybe getting a little brown around the edges. What do we need to do? Yes, water it, absolutely. I would add to that, make sure it has appropriate water, because it could have too much water, right? Appropriate water. Yes, sunlight, absolutely. It needs to have sunlight. Nutrients, we need to make sure that soil has the right nutrients in it. And temperature is another factor. We need to make sure it has temperature. So what's going to happen? We have this plant that's a little off, it's a little wilting, and we give it the appropriate water, the appropriate nutrients, sunlight, and temperature. What's going to happen to our plant? That's right. It's going to thrive. It doesn't make the decision to thrive. It thrives by design when all of the elements necessary for it to express health are present. And you're no different. Your kids are no different. Your family, your friends, no different. We all are designed to express vibrant, robust health when we set ourselves up with the environment to produce that. But all that I've said today is completely unimportant unless you have an answer for this question. And in fact, unless you have an answer for this question that gives you goosebumps, we're going to fall short with the goal, with my goal at least for this talk. We call this at Bright Futures Chiropractic finding your inspired why. And what that is you ask yourself, Why is health important to me? And then in really diving into that question, you say, okay, who is it that I love to be with so much? What do I love to do? What are the experiences I want to experience? And you start thinking about these things, and once you get to that point where you get the goosebumps, because yep, that's it, that's the thing, that's your inspired why. For me, it has changed many times over life, and that's normal. That's completely normal. Back in college and high school, it was baseball. I've already explained how I got my start with things. At some point, it became my spouse, Christina, and it became my career learning that I've done. And then, several years ago now, we had our son, William. Now I can't even start to think about it without the goosebumps coming up, because that's my inspired why. Once we decided to have him, once we began that process, my thinking changed from I need to be healthy for all these external things to I need to be healthy so that I can experience everything that he's going to experience and be there with him and help guide and mold in those formative years, and then experience as he becomes an adult and with his kids and so on and so forth. That's my inspired why. That's why I do the things, the 90-10 rule to move myself towards better health. That's why I do those things on a daily basis. And that's what I encourage you to think about with these pictures that I've created for you. As they roll, think about what your inspired why is. I sincerely appreciate your participation today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching online if you're watching this as a video. I appreciate you getting to this point where you've thought deeply for the last several minutes about health and about what it means to you and about your approach going forward from here. Now, if what I've said hasn't resonated, that's okay. If what I've said you think is completely off base and you're not finding it to be true and all that sort of thing, that's okay. And what I'll tell you is I sincerely hope that you find a path that leads you towards better health. However, if what I've said truly resonates with you, if you're sitting there going, man, that makes sense, I get that, that could be me moving towards better health, then I encourage you to take action. Because what I'll tell you is, all of us have this happen to us where we get inspired about something and we want to, we have this idea, oh yeah, I need to do that. And then we say, I'm going to get to that tomorrow. And then we do nothing about it, right? Because tomorrow happens and we never end up having any action from it. So I encourage you, if you're inspired at the moment, take action. Take action right now. Give us a call. Contact my office somehow. I always do complimentary consultations for people if you want to see if this model of care is appropriate for you. If you're listening to this from far away from where I am, please contact me. I will help you find a chiropractor who is like-minded and takes a similar approach. If you're inspired, please do something about it, because as a whole, all of us, creating a groundswell movement, we can change our individual health and the health of our culture to move towards better health. And that's a much brighter future. Thank you.